And welcome in to another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm Kieran Steckley. With me, as always, the man who's got a lot of time on his hands now that TikTok's not a thing. He is Cody Stavenhagen. How you doing?
Never signed up for TikTok here and never did it. But speaking of time, how long is this Bregman thing going to drag on? I mean, how many more weeks are we going to be on here talking about Alex Bregman without any real news or real updates? It is mid-January now. The Detroit Lions are out of the playoffs, although earlier than expected. And we're still talking about Alex Bregman. And I think the question, the talking point here, the longer this goes on, are the Tigers' chances getting better or are they getting worse? Your thoughts?
Well, here's the thing: nothing really has happened, so they're not getting.
No, nothing's.
They're not getting better or worse, in my opinion. I kind of feel like it's a flatline possibility. Maybe that's a boring answer. If you want to say less market interest or less availability of teams to sign him, is it kind of gotten? It's gotten better since the season ended. I think we can say that for sure. But it's the same it's been since winter meetings. Has anything really happened tangibly that affect that since winter meetings? So
Really.
it's the same. Now, if you want to like microcosm it a little bit, technically it's gotten a little bit better these past couple days because this kind of floated out possibility of the Chicago Cubs kind of coming here and kind of screwing it up for everybody who thought that they had a decent shot at a decent rate. That seems to be null and void. If people didn't see this, Bob Nightingale and some others like reported that the Cubs are looking at internal and filling their third base need with internal options. So there's a little wiggle room there, but I would say indications are they're out. And so that leaves Tigers, Red Sox, Blue Jays, same three teams that we've basically been talking about since the Houston Astros and Chicago Cubs did that deal that involved old friend Isaac Paredes. So are they better? They're better than they were, I guess, 36 hours ago, but we're still back to where we were 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. And I'll be honest with you, I both hate and love the fact that we get to do this because it is kind of exciting to have the possibility still out there. But there is a disturbing lack of real things out there about Bregman. So like the also report out this week, and I didn't vet it fully, but it got onto the Twitter sphere that he's not going to consider a short-term deal, which is something that we had talked about a lot as like that's where the Tigers could, excuse the pun, pounce. But if Bregman is not taking a short-term deal, that makes me think that the Tigers their chances are lower if Bregman's not going to consider a short-term deal, because it's hard for me to envision the Tigers right now giving the 6, 180, 7, 200, whatever these numbers are.
Yeah,
So both.
I wouldn't say they're out or anything by any means, but I would think the percentages are slowly kind of trending downward. The short-term deal or lack thereof comment came from Scott Boras. I believe it was at the Corbin Burns press conference, and he said that they're really not considering that with Bregman. But I don't know what to believe just because the Cubs say they're looking at internal options. Is that a negotiating ploy? Is Boras saying they won't consider a short-term deal some sort of negotiating ploy? Is it just if it's just a stare down and the Red Sox and the Tigers are all just standing there looking at each other, like what's going to eventually tip the scales? I don't know. I think the door remains open for another team to swoop in. It is worth considering. And I think Ken Rosenthal wrote this, that teams aren't as likely as we might think to like make huge payroll splashes after spring training has already started. There's select few cases, Bryce Harper a few years ago, et cetera, where that could change. But, teams like to have their roster set and their payroll set. But the longer this goes on, like, I guess that's the question. So why is this going on if he's not going to consider a shorter term deal? Do we really think someone's going to up their offer if they haven't already? I am not so sure. But it does remain a little bit of a weird circumstance. Not a lot of tangible updates. I'll be curious to see if anything changes in, let's say, the next week, because Roki Sasaki is signed. He did sign with the Dodgers. Tanner Scott has signed. He signed with the Dodgers. That's the pitching market, may or may not be related, but some teams, the Toronto Blue Jays, that keep missing out on everybody. Like, does this alter their thinking or their maneuvering at all? And how will teams respond now that Sasaki is off the board? I think will be something to watch in the next week or so.
If I could ask Bregman one question that would lead to a series of like thoughtful discussions, one of them would be, do you have a relationship with Chris Bryant? Because Chris Bryant, also a Boris client, also, a third baseman of trade, right? He has since admitted that he didn't really fully vet the team he's currently on when he signed his contract with the Rockies. Now, look, I don't begrudge anybody for trying to maximize their labor value. So this is not like a criticism, but he more or less admitted that it's not the most happy of situations, playing on the currently constructed Colorado Rockies. You say, like, is there a team out there that could do it? Like, there is a team out there that might just give Bregman the desired contract. And then is he going to, like, in his 30s, playing on a team that wins 70 games and that's a good year? Like,
No,
the
and
possibility
Alex
exists.
Bregman, especially more so than Chris Bryant, is not going to enjoy that. I mean, I think they're very different personalities. I have no idea if they have a relationship or whatever, but no, that's an interesting comparison. And I think Bregman's values are going to be a lot. Chris Bryant kind of wanted to be close to home, and I don't think he ever really loved the huge spotlight. And these are reasons he signed with the Rockies that never made any sense at the time. Like, I don't know where Bregman's going to end up, but I don't think he's going to do something that random. Now, if you're comparing the Rockies and the Blue Jays, that gets interesting. Blue Jays have a little bit more going for them, but it's very possible to see that situation not looking good in 5 years.
Well, 5 years. Try like a year and a
Next
half
year.
too. I mean, like that. I don't. The Blue Jays seem to me like a team that lacks direction a little bit. Maybe that's just me being
Yes.
too macro, but like they didn't get a good start for my opinion of them with the Bichette like things that they're trickling out there. It's like, well, listen, but it's gonna have to be. Then I'm just making up words here, but like they more or less said it's gonna have to be like a grandfather offer to get Bichette, and then you like look at the numbers and it's like, well, then I hope you're happy with him on your team next year because no one's giving you anything close to that for Bichette, a guy who overall I like. But so I'm not like criticizing
Mhm.
Bichette, but I just felt like it was kind of weird to put that out there. And then, Vlad Jr., pretty much everybody's expecting him to not be on the team in the near future in some fashion. So, like, again, you could go into an unstable situation. That doesn't apply to the Red Sox. I did my Red Sox thing last week, but like the Red Sox, like at least offer stability. And I think the Tigers offer stability. So I almost worry for Bregman. I worry that this could be a misplayed hand. And we've seen
Oh,
that
I do.
happen in
I don't
recent
think
years.
it's. I think it's a little too aggressive to like turn on Scott Boras saying he's having another terrible offseason because plenty of Boras clients, not just Juan Soto, have done well. But Bregman, maybe you should have taken that offer from the Astros, man. Like the longer this goes on, the chances of him beating that offer, I do think, are declining um, by the day. So we'll check back next time on as Alex Bregman's world turns. Let's get to the real news, Kieran. The Tigers, some big signings this week. Kenny
Well,
Sturwa, viral knuckleballer, Tomas Nido, veteran catching depth. Let's go.
yeah. Unfortunately, it happened too recent for Vegas to upgrade the win loss over under odds after those signings. But but look, and we'll talk why like Nito like might actually have a role on this team here in a little bit. But the Kenny Sirwa thing is fun. Like in case you're not on social media obsessed as we are, This is a guy who has 2 versions of a knuckleball. There's videos of him just like putting these bullpen catchers in the fits. And he allegedly has like 5 other pitches that he can throw or whatever. And Tigers signed him to a minor league deal.
He has a knuckleball that touches like 85, which is kind of crazy and pretty cool to watch on film.
Yeah, I mean, it is fun. And I think I read that 84 is the highest a knuckleball has ever been thrown in the major leagues. So if I'm slightly off on that, I apologize, but it's like in that realm. So it's fun. It's fun. It's going to provide content for you, Cody, or at least entertainment for you over in Lakeland to kind of see this guy throw live. Not going to put any expectations on it, but if this is he's been playing independent ball for a couple years. So if this is an example of outside the box thinking, I'm a big fan of outside the box thinking. It's a minor league deal. See what happens. Admittedly, I did kind of go back to Kickalicious when he had his training camp and preseason with the Lions. But that was still fun at the time. So it's obviously very low stakes, but I think it might be kind of cool at least to see if this guy has anything. And by the way, I'm always going to be in favor of unorthodox dudes like finding a way to kind of keep chasing their dreams. So good for him for getting a major league team to sign him to a contract when by this time a lot of people probably give up the dream. So he's keeping the dream alive. More credit to you. Be interested to see what happens. I don't expect him to be pitching in the ALDS next year.
Kenny Sir was only 27. He had a 4.22 ERA in an independent league last year. But for a knuckleballer, he really does limit walks. I'm sure the Tigers liked that about him. Look, this guy is definitely the Tigers are going to bring him to a split squad game. He's going to pitch in Clearwater. He's going to get Trey Turner to one hop to the mound. He's going to strike out Bryce Harper. Kyle Schwarber is going to pull a ball 480 feet foul and then strike out. And people are going to be like, Kenny Sir needs to be on the big league roster. Well, that's what I'm talking about with entertainment value. If you have a 4 ERA in an independent league, it's tough for me to actually get hype in reality. But hey, I'm going to want to watch this guy's bullpen. All right, it's certainly interesting, if nothing else.
I'm also going to be curious to see and hear AJ when he talks about it, because AJ is going to do this thing where he's really good at, where he plays into plays into why people are asking about it, but also kind of giving some sort of realism answer. So how he juggles that, I'm telling you, it's going to be a master.
Oh, class. It will. I see the videos just like you guys. I love, I was watching the videos. I don't believe Serba has an invite to big league camp, so we may not actually see much of him. Physically, you may not see much of him in the press. So,
well, okay. Here in a second, we're going to go into some what-if scenarios for the Tigers. But first, we have a word from our sponsor, Mint Mobile.
How's that New Year's resolution going for you? The fad diets or the BS resolutions are so out. How about just spending less on your wireless bill, Kratz?
Mint Mobile to the rescue. Scotty, they've got half off their 3-month unlimited plan. That's 3-month plan for only $15 a month, baby.
All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network.
Switching is easy. They'll convert your current phone and phone number for you, too.
Switch to Mint, and new customers can get half off an unlimited plan until February 2nd. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on their first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Thank you, Mint Mobile. And thank you, everybody. We didn't get to it yet, but we have eclipsed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So big thank you, big thumbs up. Really appreciate it. It's a nice little milestone for us. We're gonna hope to keep growing. We're not done, but that was a big step for us as we continue to grow this pod. So if you're watching this on YouTube, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you are subscribed, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
They say the first 1,000's the hardest, so let's get to 2. Let's get to 3. Let's build this thing up. Appreciate you guys very much.
Yes, absolutely. All right. I had some things going through my head where, I was just like, what if this is a thing and it's not gonna be good, or just like anxiety waiting for some sort of resolution in regards to this Tigers team. And it was kind of inspired. I was watching the Pistons game yesterday, and you see Tarik Skubal there at the game, and he's Mr. Detroit in a lot of ways. Like he's gone to every sporting event that there is around town, and he deserves it. He deserves to be the toast of the town for the season that he had, But what if, Cody? What if we're in the midst of a 2-year Tarik run and we don't know it yet? So the extension thing has, played itself out like this offseason. We never expected anything substantial to happen there. There's been some reporting that an offer was put towards Skubal. I would wager that with 2 years of team control, that was probably not the most formal of realistic offers. That would just be my guess. But so I'm not disputing the reporting, but I don't think they gave him like something that Scott had to like.
This is like typically how these things work, is
yes.
how I view that. Yeah.
Yes. So the Tigers will continue to have this question until something happens of, will you extend him? Should you extend him? There was a poll. It's like, if you only could choose one, I think Tigers Turmoil put it on Twitter. If you only choose one, is it, would you extend Riley, extend Skubal? We don't have to talk about that now, but like, I'm just saying that this is on people's minds. So like, what if the reality of the situation is you're looking at 1.5 years, 1 year more of Tarik Skubal in Detroit, and we just don't know it yet. And we'll look back and be like, maybe we should have been more sharper to this. I just don't know. What if?
Kieran, what if we're looking at half a year? I wrote this a couple weeks ago. A reason I think the Tigers should be aggressive in the Bregman pursuit or whatever else. You still have a very young team. For as many good things are going on in this organization, and I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, because the Tigers are in a great spot organizationally. What if you get off to a slow start? What if, you have what if Riley Green gets hurt and you have another injury, like a couple of the wrong injuries, and Trey Sweeney just doesn't crack it at shortstop, and Parker Meadows, the bat is okay, but not like all-star level like some are hoping, and Colt Keith doesn't quite like. What if you are 500 or slightly below at the trade deadline, and one of these random AL Central teams, the Royals, is running away with the division, and you're basically out of it? You know what we're going to hear all over again? Should the Tigers trade Skubal? Are the Tigers going to trade Skubal? All the rumors, and a lot of that last year was coming from the outside, was more of a media fabrication than I think was reality. But the deeper we get into this, like, it's going to have to become a reality as the Tigers look at this. And we're going to get more like whispers on whatever offers Skubal does or does not consider. Like, I keep saying this, no one in baseball thinks the Tigers are going to be able to extend Tarik Skubal. It would require Skubal making a very unique decision on his own, that he just really wanted to stay in Detroit, which, like, I don't know, maybe that could be possible, but it's not usually the way business works, especially when you're dealing with a Scott Boras client. The chances of this happening, at least without playing the open market, like, even if, I mentioned like the Godfather offer. I don't know. Say the Tigers offer him $480 million, something stupid. Still like, okay, well, let's take that to free agency and let's see if the Dodgers want to beat it. Let's see if the Yankees want to beat it. Let's like, that's the Scott Boras line of thought, and that's likely what's going to happen. So it does raise real questions. You have 2 years with Tarik Skubal. Yeah, you have other talented players. You have Jackson Jobe on the rise. You have a young core that should be setting you up for some sustainable success. At the same time, let's go back to the Lions as proof. Like, winning it all is really hard. And in my opinion, that should be the ultimate goal every year, is to win it all. You got to really try to maximize 2 years of Tarik Skubal, in my opinion. And yeah, if a couple things go wrong, man, there's a world where we're dealing with this all over again at the deadline, and then even if things go well, but they really don't think they can extend Skubal next offseason, they're going to have to think long and hard about trading him, as the Brewers did with Corbin Burns. It's not fun to talk about because Skubal's such a great guy. I mean, I listened to the podcast he did with Iron Willed, and like he's so thoughtful. He's so, he's overcome a lot. He's a great personality. He's great for this city and he's great for this team. And you wish he could be around forever, but that's probably not reality. We're probably taking that for granted a little bit right now, and it's hard not to.
It just occurred to me that there's an argument that could be made that if you do trade him for a haul this summer, next offseason,
the haul is better the earlier you do it, which isn't a fun conversation to have.
It's not a fun conversation, but there's probably some like third-party analytical mindset out there that it might be the best use of Skubal, of using that time. It's a different way of using that time. I don't want I want Skubal to pitch for a long time, but that argument exists.
I'm not saying the Tigers should trade Skubal. I'm just laying out the reality.
Well, and also the reality is that as awesome as it is to have a young core that you believe in, and as awesome as it is to keep having this this highly ranked farm system with 19 and 20-year-olds that you're enamored with, it also makes things a little murky about like when your peak window is. It just does. It just does, because I couldn't answer you right now when the Tigers' peak window is.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird, fluid discussion. Something we talked about a lot last summer, and probably ended up being wrong one because they went on a crazy run, and now it looks like they can be competitive right now. But like, these are certainly real questions. I don't know. Yeah, now it's like there's a window right now, right in front of you, is what it seems like. But like I said, that conversation could flip if a couple things go wrong in the first half of this year.
Well, another what if that kind of crossed my mind, Cody, was like if you don't believe Torque is done, like you, the hypothetical you, if you don't believe Torque is done, and you've invested these resources into him that we've talked about, into trying to make his body move a little bit better, a little bit more fluidly, all the kinesiology aspects of it. Transfer of power, that's going to be a big word this week, that transfer of power in the batter's box. What if he could get something like his 2023 season offensively? I'm not even talking about like the 30 home runs, but he was a 1.9, so basically a 2-WAR offensive player that year. Offensively, just offense, just for the record. That's all I'm talking about here. And if that still exists somewhere, now it's set up that we really won't be able to know. Because as of now, there's not really a spot for him on the Major League roster. If there was a spot for him on the Major League roster, there's not a steady amount of at-bats available for him on the Major League team. And then we have to do this Toledo thing all over again in terms of like trying to figure out what's actually going on here. So like there stands a possibility that Torque unlocks something and we won't be able to know, and it will not help the Tigers in 2025. That's like, what if?
Yeah, I mean, well, these are reasons you keep him in the organization. These are reasons they're not DFAing him or looking to trade him, because maybe there is something. There have been some whispers, Kieran, of a Spencer Torkelson toe tap, which I think we've been calling for like 2 years, some kind of like loading timing mechanism. But if this is true, like people are getting excited about Spencer Torkelson already, and we're not even to spring training yet. He's a talented enough guy that it's interesting. But yeah, am I wrong that there's just like no path to a roster spot for him? Like, am I wrong in that thinking?
Well, okay, as soon as Scott Harris said that they're not looking at him to do anything else defensively, that kind of was a wrap in my mind.
I think so.
Like,
I mean, it would be a departure of everything we know from Scott Harris and AJ Hinch to carry a right-handed hitting first baseman DH only. It just would not make much sense.
and
So it's going to take an injury. And then that leads us to another fun hypothetical world where Torkelson's hitting 300 and dropping bombs every day in Toledo, and people on Twitter are losing their minds. And they're still not going to call him up because it just wouldn't fit the construction of their roster.
so again, there I say, like, you have a guy that is, still approaching his physical prime, and like, you don't really know what you have there. So it's like, keep him in the organization, sure, but it also, I fail to see the way that he can be properly evaluated as to whether he could contribute, because the whole thing about another little piece of
Yeah,
this,
we know AAA is not really going to, at least like the surface stuff in AAA is not going to help us, right?
another piece to this is that Torres is on a 1-year deal, and Scott Harris, in that same press availability, said that we don't know what we're going to do with Colt Keith, like, positionally, after 2025. Now, they probably have some ideas, scenarios. That's their job, but they are not beholden to have to keep Colt Keith at first base beyond this season, based on contracts and player availability and all those things. So, like, maybe Torque has to come back in 2026. Like, I don't know. Like probably not. Probably not. We've seen the at bats, the number. Like, we understand all this, but it's like, how are you going to be able to evaluate a guy who who's not going to turn 26 until August?
Yeah, I'm actually somewhat shocked Tigers aren't just hitting them some fly balls. Maybe that's just putting too much on his plate right now. But that was a whisper in September for like 5 seconds that maybe Torque left field could be a thing in 2025, and it's not. But I'm kind of surprised it's not, because they took the step of Jahan getting some grounders at first. Like, if you basically have Torque and Jahan occupying the same role, and a spot comes open, and whichever one of them is you like better offensively at the time, like, because there is a viable roster spot if you could play corner outfield. Maybe not fun. A guy you've already moved from third base. You don't want to feel like you're yanking him around, but otherwise, I'm not sure what you're really doing with him. So I wonder if in time that could become a reality. I think that's the best path for Spencer Torkelson in the major leagues.
Well, I mean, defensive versatility ought to be at the top, not the top, but like number 2 on his list of, like, things that might go in my favor if I could figure it out.
I actually think he could do it. That's just my hot take. I think Spencer Torkelson could be adequate in the outfield. The arm is actually not bad. I've always thought he moves well for first base. Like, movement has not been the root of his defensive struggles. He played outfield in Cape Cod a little bit in his college career. I'm gonna give it a shot.
Yeah, I'd be down. I'd be down for that. I mean, again, we talked about the knuckleballer. We got Colt Keith, after 1 year in the majors playing second base, is going to move the first, at least for a year. Unorthodox his approach are not like strangers to this organization, which brings me to another what if. And there's a lot kind of grouped into this. Is that, like, what if this infield configuration, like, there's a lot of ways for this to bottom out. Like, there's like, you could have a hole at shortstop if Trey Sweeney doesn't develop, and then you have to do that Javier Baez, like, hip injury, figure it out what you have for him for 3 more years thing. You have Jace Young, who only has 34 games under his belt. Play with a wrist injury. We don't like, maybe he's the answer to everything, where he can be adequate defensively and he's going to smash offensively. Maybe and makes this Bregman discussion silly. Maybe that's a possibility, but we don't know, and we can't say for sure. What if moving Colt to first base? Again, you talk about putting a lot on Torkelson's plate. Like, Colt is still a guy trying to figure out how to be a Major League Baseball player. He only had 1 year of experience. Like, these things take time. And now he's going to have to learn a new position. And, like, there's a possibility that's asking too much. It's just, it's just a possibility. And then Gleyber Torres is what you expect, and you get the offensive production, but what you expect also means, like, the lack of defense and base running. So, like, what if this really, really new look Tigers infield it's not great. Like, that again, the possibility exists there. That's all I'm saying. Like, what, like it's a lot. We're assuming a lot on this infield, is what I'm saying.
You're very much right. I think Colt Keith's going to have a pretty good year at the plate. I'm a pretty big believer in his hitting prowess. I have no idea what kind of first baseman he's going to be. Really interested to see it with my own eyes. But yeah, I think generally in baseball, we take the transition to first base for granted. I think all the time of Nico Goodrum. Really good athlete. Adequate, middle infielder. Was a terrible first baseman. Like, the footwork around it just didn't translate to first. Like, you would think it would. If this guy can play shortstop, he can play first. It was not the case with Nico Goodrum. I don't know how it'll go for Colt, and he's never done it before in his entire life that we know of, which is very much worth noting. Gleyber, I think the bat's pretty good too, and I think the defense is atrocious. Shortstop, man, yeah, I've said it before. Trey Sweeney could be this year's Parker Meadows, where, like, the first month or two is not pretty. I guess we'll see who ends up playing third base. It's almost like you could add a stabilizing force, and suddenly you would feel a lot better about the whole thing.
Yeah, and you don't have to give up any assets to do it.
Novel concept. Concept.
And by the way, we're still on Nolan Arenado watch, just for whatever it's worth. Just put it out there.
John Mosaliak's comment. So he said it was like priority A, B, and C is like Arenado. But can't be much more candid than that.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. But, like, sneaky, the Tigers are about as young as they've been going into a season in a while. Like, I don't think we fully grasp that either.
Yeah, the youth is both exciting, promising, and very volatile and very scary. I think that goes back to a lot of things I've said throughout this episode. Like, you can feel really good about the future. It doesn't necessarily mean April, May, June of 2025 is going to be all sunshine and rainbows. I think that's my singular biggest concern with the 2025 Tigers right now.
Yeah, and that's why someone like Thomas Nido, I know it's a minor league deal, but, like, we were talking before this, the Tigers were remarkably healthy at catcher last year, and they're young, even though Jake's obviously, not a young pup. He's got some, got some skins on the wall, but they're young with the dingler aspect. And, I'm going to steal your quote from when we talked before this, like, one foul ball away from, like, having.
It's actually crazy that the Tigers had no real IL time at catcher last year. That just kind of doesn't happen. So again, yeah, one foul ball, and what if you lose Jake for a month? And what if Dylan is just really going through the rookie struggles? I think he's a good, talented player who's going to have a solid big league career. But, like, what if it's tough starting out, and then you're left with Dingler and, like, Tomas Nido? Suddenly you're no longer feeling so good about your catcher situation. That's a reality to look for in 2025.
Yep. A lot could happen, and we're 20-something days away from spring training. We're about a month from the first game, so it's coming up quick, and that's why I'm happy that everybody is here with us on this ride. Thank you again for subscribing on YouTube. If you haven't, please do, so we continue to grow. Subscribe, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on X. We're not on TikTok anymore because nobody is. Follow us on X at Cody Stavenhagen. I'm at Kieran _Steckley, and the pod page is at Tiger Territory _. So for Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great day.